Hi, I'm Eddie Davis with Airbrush Action Magazine and Airbrush.tv, and I'm going to demo for you today one of our top-selling, high-dollar designs right off the beach in Destin, Florida. Gary Worthington and I own a shop down there, and this is one of our better designs as far as art and composition goes, and it's Jimi Hendrix. How could you go wrong with Hendrix, right? So I'm going to start out by spraying our stencil. Now you got to remember, this design is a pretty high-contrast portrait, which means it has a big open area, and then the face is kind of floppy. So we know this, and that's why we plot all of our designs out on 5 mil, 0.5 mil Mylar, because it's going to be pretty disposable. These things get tore up pretty fast because we do a lot of volume in our shop. So let me get this laid down, and once you get the outside border down, then we lay this up. And make sure that it's pretty much straight. It's going to fall in the position that it wants to be in. And then we can get ready to go ahead and spray. My first color I'm going to use is going to be black, obviously. I'm going to stay real close to the face and then start bringing colors around. Because it's a t-shirt design and we want this to not move while we're painting it, we spray it with spray adhesive. Any brand is really good enough. And then we use a brayer to really stick that thing down. We don't want this moving around. Generally, we paint with pretty high pressure at the shop, so the better this sticks, the better it looks, because if you get blow under, especially with a lot of black, it kind of looks messy. And we got to keep this outside line nice and sharp, because after all this inside work is done, I'm going to come around and do a nice big tight wrap with it with bright colors. My first color is Wicked XXX Black, and we're working about 70 psi. So to start this out, I'm just going to come in and spray black just around the face section, making sure I get good coverage and saturation. A lot of times with these high contrast portraits, more paint is better than not enough because you don't want it to look washed out. Make sure you get good color saturation. Wicked and Createx are great for that, but a big point is I see a lot of people just put a little color on it and call it good because they want a soft look. If you want a soft look, you can do that by saturating the color and just doing your blends correctly. But for the sake of color fastness, really pound that paint into the fabric. It really helps at the end of the day. And you want those repeat customers. All right, that about does it for the black on this design. My next color is going to be violet. And what I do with the violet is I'll follow through and outline everything, and then I'll start to close this in so I can go in with rainbow colors. We don't want a lot of colors mudding each other up by laying over each other. So a little color theory here. Come in with violet, and I bring it right about cheekbone level and start blending it out. But I'll get real tight and close around the face here. And I've got this trigger wide open when I do these lines like this. A lot of people don't like folding their stencils. If you do this commercially like we do, you understand what we're talking about. Gary and I designed these to be disposable, so we just fold those corners up so that we don't get any overspray on the rest of the white shirt. We're putting a lot of color out with a lot of pressure. And then up here toward the top, I get a little bit closer and really pound that color in. I want that to look good, saturated. I don't want any gaps or any voids. That about does it. The next color I'm going to use is going to be raspberry from Wicked. And I'll just come in and about 50-50 lay that over what I just did with the violet. So I get a nice transition of color. Same thing, walk it around the top of the stencil. Next color is going to be fluorescent pink from Wicked as well. And really pound this pink in here because the pigment on it will allow you to run off into darker colors a little bit, and you can build it. This is really wet at this point, so I'm just telling you now, before we move on too much farther, I'm going to have to dry it off, but just so you know, I'm putting a lot of paint in this. The next color I'm going to come in with, you would think would be fluorescent orange because I'm trying to go to that dark to light transition, but I'm just going to use fluorescent yellow and mix it on the shirt. Again, I'm trying to get a 50-50 overlap into that pink, which will force it to be orange. Just like that. I'm liking the way that's looking. So one more time, because we have a little bit of overspray because I'm using such a high pressure, I'm going to come in and just run around that face with black one more time to get it nice and dark. That's it for the background as far as that goes. Now I'm going to come back in with one of our freehand elements that we use for a bunch of different designs. We wanted to make our designs interchangeable as far as background elements go and background colors go. So we try to take, conventional wisdom as far as the backgrounds and stuff go, and you can really busy up a design without a whole lot of effort and cover a lot of area and just really knock it out of the park. So the next thing I'm going to do is come back with this little stencil, but I'm going to be using the opaque blue, which is a really bright color. Right now I'm just going to use a little air to dry this off. So I got a lot of wet paint on here. Okay, at this point, normally what I do is I'll just tack it a little bit with some spray adhesive. Just a little bit, just that much. I'm going to be moving it around so I don't want to stick it too much. So I'll find a section about like that. And because this opaque blue has so much white in it, it goes opaque really fast. And I'm real careful to stay away from the edges of this stencil, but I tried to cut it a little bit that if I do overrun it, it doesn't make a big difference. But really pound this color in because we're going to come back and tint all this blue when I'm done. Just fast, fast, fast. And just walk it around the design. Just about like that. So now I've got a really busy floral pattern in there. It's very trippy looking, very hippie looking. Coming back with my violet, and I'm going to dry this just a little bit, but now I'm going to tint that fluorescent blue with this violet. And you watch what happens here. It looks really cool. I'm going to get it real dark around the face with the violet. And just underneath the chin there, and run it up the edges a little bit. Next, the next logical step for me would be, I've got pink here, so I want to pull some pink down into this area. I'm going to tint right over that fluorescent blue with fluorescent pink. Just to bump it up a little bit. And that is pretty much it for the inside and the background. Got a little fuzz picked up here because I didn't press the shirt first, which sometimes is a good idea if you have time to do it. If not, just learn how to really pound that color in and make sure you don't pick up a lot of overspray. And I know it depends a lot on the brand of shirt that you guys shop might have, but we try to use 50-50 cotton polyester blends. All right, at this point, the stencil work is done. Because of the floppy face, I pull it from the bottom and work my way up. And there's a lot of little bitty sharp jagged things in here, so I got to be kind of careful how I do this. But like I said, this stencil is disposable, but not for this video. There we go, Jimi Hendrix. Now, if you notice, I still got a little bit of overspray on here. I'm not concerned about it because I'm going to come in and stipple that in a minute, but what I really want to show you is the next step. I come in with the fluorescent pink again, and real close and tight, I will wrap the whole design with about a 1/4 inch line of pink. And I just want to make sure I get even coverage. I'm not too terribly worried about how accurate, I'm following the shape, just so long as it breaks it up between that violet and the white. This is my mid step, and after I'm done with this step, I'll come back with fluorescent yellow, and then we'll sort out that overspray. It happens, and it's one of those real world things, and I'm going to show you how to fix that to where you can sleep at night and the customer is happy. And I'm just following these contour lines. I'm not trying to fill in any color. When I first started working on these, I started trying to shade with this, and I found you could do it, but from a development standpoint, it's just a lot easier just to follow your black shapes. Just like that. My next color is going to be fluorescent yellow. Same drill. But when I get to the face, I'll fill the face in with fluorescent yellow to mimic the skin tone. Walk around the same way and try to keep it even, but a nice tight line. And if you overlay this 50-50, 50% yellow, 50% pink, it'll actually give it a little bit of an orange hue where the two overlap, which is kind of cool. I'll come in here and outline this, but I'll actually back off once I'm done with the outlining. And it's just a force of habit. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. I just like the look. I'll come back and then just blast in yellow right there. Once I've got that pink and yellow set into the fabric. The next step is I have these large tribal elements. Let me spray this with some glue and I'll show you how that works. Again, this is going to be moved around a couple times, so I don't want to stick it down too hard or too solid. And I'll just sort of center this up. And I'm just running a little bit of color on this into that outline that I did. So I'll start with my pink. About that much. I'm not trying to take it all the way into the design. I just want to get the outside edges of this stencil. This background element was inspired by a design I saw in Panama City Beach. I redrew it just to make it my own, and I really like how it turned out. Next color, fluorescent orange. But not up against the yellow. I'm just staying mostly in the pink. That's where you want to be, in the pink. That's done. Pull that off. Now, you hardly notice that overspray. Down here you see a little bit, but the fastest way I know to fix that is with stipple. I'm just using violet. Actually, I'll use a brighter color of violet. Just run a little bit of stipple around it because we're going to put lettering on this, which will bury all that. A little darker violet on top of that. And bear in mind, I mean, for the sake of art, I should stop right here and leave it alone, but it is a design from the beach and people want lettering on their stuff, so I'm painting it as such. Last color on this design is basic opaque, the basic opaque white, and all I'm going to do is just put little specular highlights on Jimmy's corneas because he's, you know, he's experienced. Last color, back to the opaque blue. And all I'm going to do is write on here castles in the sand. It's beachy, but it's Hendrix. It works out pretty well. Trying to get my lettering to balance out here a little bit. And I learned from the old school, so I don't necessarily do it all a single stroke. I like to come back and fill things in. And I'll actually come back and wrap this lettering with fluorescent pink as well. In the sand. Just like that. I'm not going to mess with the in the part of it, but I will go around and wrap this blue with fluorescent pink and keeping it nice and tight. You don't want it loose. You just want to, you're basically just outlining the blue. And don't worry if you run over into that blue a little bit, it'll actually give it more of a purple look, and that actually is very appealing. A little blast of pink underneath. Same thing, follow that around. And I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of the people that buy this design are females. They love this. They love the color. They love the concept. They love the beachy aspect of it. Blasting a little pink. If you got time, you can put white highlights on it. You don't have to. But there you go. Castles in the Sand, Jimi Hendrix, Airbrush Action Magazine, and Airbrush.tv.